In 1990, Iraq accused Kuwait of stealing their oil by slant drilling. Iraq invaded Kuwait and seized all of their oil fields. This was done by the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein. Opposed to this was a coalition of 34 nations led by George H.W. Bush in the United States of America. They set out to help liberate Kuwait. This conflict is known as the Persian Gulf War. The war ended very quickly due to the coalition forces and the use of the modern warfare such as the laser-guided missiles. As Iraq retreated, Saddam Hussein ordered the bombings of the Kuwait oil fields. These images of the oil fields became famous around the world. In 1989, my cousin Drew Beard entered the Marine Corps as an auto mechanic. He signed up for 6 years and had no idea that we were going to be going into war. I was able to talk with him 20 years after the war has ended, and he was able to share with us some of his experiences that he had in the Persian Gulf War.
And all that, and I came home for vacation for Christmas, and a couple days before Christmas, I got a call that I needed to be back in 24 hours because we're going to be deployed. Landed in Saudi Arabia on Christmas Eve.
Did you know anything about what was going on with the war, or anything? Just
no, we knew Saddam, his troops were in Kuwait. And
right.
Kuwait didn't want them there.
Okay.
So they were like, hey, we're going to go there and we're going to get them out of Kuwait.
Gotcha.
So we landed in an airport, I don't remember where that was, but we bussed for probably 3 hours to almost like an Olympic Coliseum stadium with bleachers all the way around, like a big football field with a track field down inside,
right.
Like, Wake Forest. And we stayed outside of that. That facility was open, there were some people inside, but we stayed outside of that in big tents that slept about 14 guys.
Oh, wow.
The tents had a wood floor that we built, so you kind of stepped up in here. That tent had power, it was run off generators, you had a couple of lights. Technology wasn't big, so nobody had iPhones and MP3 players. None of that was around. We had cassette tapes and boom
no
boxes.
cell phones or nothing.
No cell phones, so I imagine it was pretty.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot to do.
Right.
But they kept you busy. Again, they were really concerned with safety.
Yeah.
Really concerned with do's and the don'ts, and more importantly, what to do. Saddam was shooting missiles all over the place, and we had defenses. The Patriot missile was developed, and we had defense systems set up to knock something down if it came our way. But if it came our way, we needed to know what to do. So we had many bunkers dug down in the ground, and when that siren would go off, whatever you were doing, you dropped it, you grabbed your gear, because the big thing back then was biological warfare.
Right.
He was going to shoot a missile, when it blows up, it wasn't just going to blow up, it was going to release a gas.
Right.
So we had stuff to inject ourselves with if we got exposed to gas. We had all the gear to put on.
Gas masks and things.
Gas masks. I mean, all of that stuff you had to grab before you went to the bunker. Iraq was in Kuwait.
They were in Kuwait, so you guys were just waiting to see what your orders would be to go help them?
Yep.
Okay. When did that happen? Did you guys
Probably, we left the Saudi Arabia Coliseum. We started seeing, I think right around early January, we started seeing our planes that we had fueled up and we had loaded up with bombs were leaving and coming back. We started seeing them coming back without bombs.
Gotcha.
So we were like, okay, they're blowing things up. They were blowing things up so far away we couldn't hear any of that. We got our orders and said, hey, we're going to go forward. We're going to go 100 miles north to where they just got done blowing up, and we're going to cut this travel time down so we can keep moving north. So units would start leaving, and in our call came one unit one week, one day. We packed everything we had up, and there was about 400 of us in the unit. There may have been 80 trucks, and we all jumped on trucks, and we headed north out into the desert, and we set up a big base camp out there in the middle of nowhere and built a runway, and planes started landing on our runway. We would fuel them, load them, feed them, and send them north again. And, that time span and so we kind of just leapfrogged forward and forward.
How far deep did you get in there?
That process, we got all the way up to the Kuwait border, and what Saddam had done is he built a berm that was maybe 40 feet tall out in the middle of the desert, so you couldn't get over that. So we sat right on the other side of that berm. And by this time, he had also known we were coming, and the ground defensive hadn't started, but the planes had blown so much up, he knew he was losing, because the first thing we went after was communication lines and food lines.
Yeah.
So we blew up everything that they could do to travel on, and every communication they could do. So their soldiers were sitting on the other side of the berm, with no communication, no food. They had no idea what was going on.
Right.
So we sat on the other side of this berm, wait and see, hey, when are we going? Are we going in this berm, or
Yeah.
what are we going to do? So, and that process was probably 2 months, maybe, I think, of where we finally got to that berm.
Right.
And in the night that we broke that berm, we went in the middle of the night on trucks. And Saddam had already started lighting the oil rigs all on fire. So daytime wasn't even really daytime, it was really foggy.
Right.
Just on the outside of this berm. When we got orders to go through that berm, they blew up that berm and we went through. They had done minefield, so we went through a minefield that was cleared, just enough for a truck to drive through.
Right.
And we drove for hours through there. And now it started getting dark, even though it was noon.
Yeah.
It was pitch black.
Wow.
From the fires, and you could see the fires,
Yeah.
and it was amazing how big the fires and how hot they were.
Yeah. Was there a lot of them? Like you said,
everywhere.
all everywhere?
Everywhere.
Wow.
We kept this main base camp that we did this berm at, which was 50 miles away from everything, but we were a POW house too.
Oh wow.
The people that were captured, because those
Yeah.
guys, when we broke that berm, those guys were popping up with white flags.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So they were easy to just round them up. We
Right.
had trucks with fence all the way around it. We just drove in the truck.
Yeah.
And we dug a big pit that was maybe 300 feet circle, 20 feet down, and we put all the war prisoners in the hole.
Yeah.
We would feed them, and then people would bust more in, people would bust some out. So I don't know where they were coming from or where they were going, but
Yeah.
so we secured that area too.
Right.
But the last place that we ended up with that already had runways was Kuwait International Airport.
Okay.
And that was a place that made big news because we were launching cruise missiles from sea ships, 50 miles away with cameras on it. And a lot of people that weren't in the war that watched it from TV,
Right.
cameras were on that, and you would see them going into these big hangars,
Yeah.
and blowing up the hangars, trying to get any aircraft that was in those hangars. The last place we went to was that airport, and we stayed in these hangars that I remember laying in there at night and looking up, and the ceiling was gone.
So the places that us as Americans saw the missiles blow up, you guys would go into that place afterwards and
and because
stayed in
that
there.
place already had runways,
Right.
we didn't have to build any runways.
Exactly.
It's a great place to secure
Yeah.
and have a place with some structure that we can protect ourselves and still perform our duties and fuel trucks and fuel planes and load them up with ammos and
Right.
stuff.